All right, so welcome to part one of my three-part series on pre, post, and intra-workout nutrition. In this one, we will cover pre-workout nutrition. So let's just dive right on in. So three portions to a meal in meal design is proteins, fats, and carbs, right? Well, there's a little bit added component to designing a pre-workout meal, in that there's a couple of factors that need to be taken into account. What is the client's lifestyle, and how close to training are they going to be eating this meal? So with that being said, a couple of things that I generally like to do for clients is I like to make the meal smaller. Making the meal smaller means that it's not going to sit very heavy on the stomach, and it's not going to make you feel sluggish at the gym. Not only that, but if you're training somewhere that's hot, like I do here in Texas, it can be pretty brutal, right? And when you're out there and you're hot and your heart rate's high, like at some point you're going to get nauseous, and you might even throw up that meal. That's a waste of nutrition. It's a waste of food, really. And we're bodybuilders. We don't waste that stuff. Come on now. We need all the gains we can get. So I like to make things to where they're easily digestible. Not only that, but preferably a smaller meal. Sometimes a guy might have to have a larger meal, and it just is what it is. Some people can handle a larger meal, and that's great, right? However, I like to eat 30 minutes. I like to eat and then leave for the gym, and then I'm training within 30 to 40 minutes of eating. So I like my meal to be smaller, and not only that, but I'm training in a hot environment. So the smaller, easily digestible meal is better for me overall. And I find that it's better for a lot of people. So let's start with carbs. Generally speaking, I like to do a faster digesting carb. So anything that is rice-based, whether it be cream of rice, rice cakes, Rice Krispie treats, rice-based cereal even, or like a carbolin. I generally will give clients an option of using carbolin, depending on how many carbs they have in that pre-workout meal. I think one scoop is 50 grams of carbs. So if they're in that range, then I will give them the option of doing carbolin, because it's very easy to do. And especially if their meal one is their pre-workout, so they're training first thing in the morning, I would rather them drink a shake of carbolin and protein powder before going to the gym than training fasted. So not only that, but if we use a faster digesting carb, it's easily digestible, and it's not going to sit on the gut as heavily, right? So, but B, we're also going to have a spike in insulin, and that is going to drive nutrients to the muscle and to the blood. It's going to get it in the bloodstream, right? And then we're going to start training, and that nutrient-rich blood's going to be to the muscle, and some people will say that's an amazing effect, right? I can't see an instance where it's a bad thing. I can only see an instance where it's a good thing, right? To have nutrient-rich blood going to the muscle, right? So let's start to, so those fast carbs, those fast digesting carbs, are going to start fueling performance, right? We're going to be allowed to use a little bit of it. Not all of it, because digestion doesn't work that fast, but we're going to be able to use some of it. And that's amazing, right? When it comes to protein, I like to use something that's easily digestible, again, for the same reasons as before. A protein powder most of the time, or chicken or fish, right? Some people do really well with chicken and fish, and that's great. Go for it. I like protein powder personally. It doesn't sit on my stomach. It also doesn't take me long to eat, which is a big factor for me personally. I don't like to sit there and eat this big, large meal before training. So I'll typically do something of that nature beforehand. And then fats are very dependent upon the person as to whether they're getting them or not, and how training is going, right? Because the fats are going to slow down the insulin spike through the carbs, and it is just going to slow down the digestive process all around. So it just depends. It's a person-to-person thing as to whether I add them or not. I typically will add like a peanut butter or an oil beforehand. People love peanut butter. It's hard not to, right? And the last thing that I generally add is I'll add a glucose disposal agent. I generally only add these pre-workout. If client is clearly having a problem with insulin sensitivity, they will have them other times of the day. However, pre-workout, pretty much anybody's gonna have them on their plan. Why? Because I noticed that you get a little bit of that insulin-like effect in that if you were to take insulin, the pump in the gym is gonna be a lot better. Well, I believe that if you take a GDA as well, it does help increase the pump as well, right? Because it works very similar to insulin. It allows you to drive more nutrients to the blood. Glucose disposal agent, right? Like it gets the glucose out of the blood and into the muscle. So if we can drive more nutrients to the muscle, it's just going to increase performance and recovery, which is the whole goal of these 3 meals that we're going to be discussing. So that's it for pre-workout nutrition. I'm not going to discuss quantities because quantities vary so drastically that it's impossible to discuss, right? That's a very per client basis. Per person basis, yeah, it's just not discussable, right? So if you have any questions or concerns, whatever the case may be, right? I'm open for discussion to talk about any one of these points. Again, these are just the practices that I implement when I am designing a plan and working with somebody. And these may not be applicable for everyone, and they may need to change depending on the person, right? So with that being said, thanks for listening. Part 2 will be up soon.